Look who I'm with now. He's gorgeous and rich. My name is Brandon. I'm 42 years old and I've spent the last 15 years as a private wealth consultant in Phoenix, Arizona. I help rich people protect their money from exactly what just happened to me. The irony wasn't lost on me as I stared at the photo my wife had just sent. Elena and I had been married for 8 years. She was sitting in what looked like an expensive hot tub with some guy who couldn't have been older than 25. His arm was wrapped around her waist like he owned her. Maybe he thought he did. The text that followed made my jaw tighten. I've moved all your money to his offshore account. Thanks for funding my new life. I set my phone down on my desk at Ironvale Financial and looked out the window. The Arizona heat was brutal that September afternoon, but I felt cold inside. Elena had been planning this. The spa weekend with her girlfriends was a lie. The distance between us over the past few months suddenly made sense. I picked up the phone again and typed back, "Enjoy every moment together." She probably expected me to panic, to call her screaming, to beg her to come home. But Elena never understood what I actually did for a living. She thought I just moved money around for wealthy clients. She had no idea that my specialty was protecting assets from people exactly like her. The wire transfer notification popped up on my secondary phone 3 minutes later. $2.7 million. Our entire joint account plus the money market fund she had access to. All headed to an account in the Cayman Islands. I opened my laptop and pulled up the account monitoring system I'd installed on all our finances 2 years ago. Elena had forgotten that I'd shown her the fraud protection protocols when we first set up our accounts. Back then, she'd rolled her eyes and called me paranoid. The transfer was already flagged. Unauthorized international wire exceeding threshold limits. Suspicious recipient account. Potential identity fraud markers triggered. I leaned back in my chair and almost smiled. Almost. Elena had just tried to steal from someone who'd spent his entire career staying 3 steps ahead of thieves. The money she thought she'd moved was sitting in a holding pattern, frozen pending investigation. Her new boyfriend's offshore account was about to become very interesting to some federal agencies. My assistant knocked on the door. "Mr. Malister, your 4 o'clock is here. Send them in, Bethany." I had work to do. Elena could enjoy her spa weekend a little longer. I'd met Elena 6 years after my divorce from my first wife. Back then, I was still rebuilding my practice and my life. Elena was working as a marketing coordinator for a resort in Scottsdale. She was beautiful, charming, and seemed genuinely interested in the work I did. We married after 2 years of dating. I thought I'd found someone who understood the demands of my career. Elena seemed to enjoy the lifestyle my success provided, the house in Paradise Valley, the vacations, the financial security I could offer. But looking back, there are signs I'd ignored. 3 months ago, Elena started complaining about feeling trapped. She wanted to travel more, experience new things. She'd developed a sudden interest in social media, constantly posting photos and checking her phone. When I suggested we plan a trip together, she said she needed space to figure herself out. Last month, she'd asked detailed questions about our account access, how the wire transfers worked, whether she could move money internationally for an investment opportunity a friend had mentioned. I'd explained the security protocols I'd put in place, thinking she was just being responsible. 2 weeks ago, Elena announced the spa weekend with her college friends. She'd been vague about the location, just saying it was somewhere relaxing in California. When I offered to pay for a nicer resort, she said her friends had already made arrangements. The morning she left, I'd kissed her goodbye and wished her a good time. She'd hugged me longer than usual. I thought it was affection. Now I realized it was guilt. My phone buzzed with another message from Elena. "You're probably freaking out right now. Don't bother calling. I'm done pretending to love someone I never really knew." I saved the message and forwarded it to my attorney. Elena didn't realize she just provided written evidence of premeditated theft in Arizona that elevated the charges significantly. My computer chimed with an alert from the fraud monitoring system. The Cayman Islands account she transferred to was flagged in 3 different international databases: money laundering, tax evasion, securities fraud. Elena's new boyfriend wasn't just young and handsome. He was also under federal investigation. I called my contact at the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. Hello, Janet. It's Brandon Mallister. I need to report a suspicious transaction on my personal accounts. What do you have for me, Brandon? Attempted wire fraud. 2.7 million to a flagged Cayman account. The perpetrator is my wife. Jesus. Brandon, I'm sorry. Don't be. She picked the wrong target. Within an hour, the investigation was officially opened. Elena's fun weekend was about to become very educational. Sunday evening, I was grilling chicken on my back patio when my phone rang. The caller identification showed a number I didn't recognize, but the area code was from the resort where Elena claimed to be staying. Mr. Mallister, this is Detective Rodriguez with the Nassau County Sheriff's Office. We're calling about your wife, Elena Mallister. My grip tightened on the phone. What about her? She's been arrested along with several others in connection with an ongoing federal investigation. She's requested that we contact you. I turned off the grill and sat down in one of the patio chairs. What are the charges? Wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes. The federal agents who made the arrest said you'd filed a complaint earlier today. That's correct. Sir, your wife is asking if you'll post bail for her. I looked out at the mountains in the distance, watching the sunset behind them. Elena had no idea what she'd walked into. The boyfriend she thought was rich and sophisticated was actually a con artist who'd been running financial scams across 3 states. She'd handed herself to him on a silver platter. Mr. Mallister, are you there? I'm here. Tell my wife that her bail is her new boyfriend's responsibility now. After I hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the patio as darkness fell. My phone buzzed constantly with texts from Elena. First angry, then desperate, then pleading. Brandon, please, this is all a mistake. The money never moved. You have to help me. I'll come home. We can work this out. I didn't respond to any of them. The federal investigation Elena had stumbled into had been building for 18 months. Her boyfriend Tyler was part of a network that targeted wealthy women, convinced them to steal from their husbands, then disappeared with the funds. Elena thought she was being clever. She was actually being used. The money she tried to transfer was still sitting in her account, frozen, but safe. The fake identification documents Tyler had provided her to open the Cayman account were forgeries. The romantic photos she'd sent me were being used as evidence of conspiracy. By Monday morning, the local news was running stories about the arrests. Elena's mugshot was on television by noon. My assistant brought me coffee and shook her head. I'm sorry about all this, Mr. Mallister. Don't be Bethany. Elena made her choice. I'd spent years protecting other people's wealth from schemes exactly like this one. I never imagined I'd need to protect myself from my own wife. But when the moment came, every safeguard I'd built held firm. Elena had betrayed me, but she'd also revealed who she really was. That was almost a gift. Tuesday morning, Elena called from jail. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Brandon, you have to listen to me. Her voice was strained, desperate. This whole thing is a setup. Tyler told me you'd move the money to offshore accounts to avoid taxes. He said we were just reclaiming what was already mine. I leaned back in my office chair. Elena, I've never moved any of our money offshore illegally. You know that. But Tyler showed me documents, bank statements. He said you were hiding assets from me. Did you ever think to ask me directly? He said you just deny it, that men like you always lie to protect yourselves. I almost laughed. Men like me, wealthy men, financial men. Tyler said, you probably had millions hidden that I didn't know about. Elena had fallen for the oldest con in the book. Tyler had probably been watching our social media accounts for months, learning our lifestyle, our habits. He targeted her specifically because she was married to someone in finance. Elena, where did you meet Tyler? At that yoga class I started taking in Scottsdale. He was the instructor. Of course, Tyler had positioned himself where wealthy, potentially unhappy wives might be vulnerable. Elena had walked right into his trap. How long have you been seeing him? 2 months. Brandon, he loves me. This is all just a misunderstanding. The federal agents who arrested you don't think it's a misunderstanding. Elena started crying. Please just pay my bail. We can figure this out. Elena, your bail is set at $200,000. The judge set it high because you're a flight risk. You have that money. I do, but I'm not going to use it to bail out someone who tried to steal from me. I'm your wife. You were my wife. You ended that when you sent me those photos. The line went quiet except for her sobbing. Elena, let me explain something to you. The account you tried to transfer money to belongs to a man who's been running the same scam for 3 years. He's taken over $4 million from women just like you. The federal government has been tracking him since last year. That's impossible. Tyler showed me his business, his investment portfolio. All fake. The documents he showed you about my supposed offshore accounts also fake. You've been played. Elena's breathing became shallow. No, that can't be right. The FBI agent who questioned you yesterday, did she mention that Tyler had a girlfriend in Miami, another in Dallas, and one in Seattle? All married to wealthy men. I'll convince their husbands were hiding money. Stop it. Elena Tyler is 34 years old. His real name is Tyler Brennan. He's been arrested 6 times for fraud in 4 different states. The romantic photos you sent me, he sent identical ones to his other girlfriends. The phone went silent. Elena, this can't be happening. I'm afraid it is. You tried to steal money to run away with a career criminal who was planning to disappear as soon as your wire transfer cleared. I want to come home. That's not possible anymore. Brandon, please. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Now you have to live with the consequences. After I hung up, I sat quietly for several minutes. Part of me felt sorry for Elena. She'd been manipulated by an expert, but she'd also chosen to betray our marriage rather than talk to me about whatever was making her unhappy. My lawyer called an hour later. Brandon, the district attorney wants to know if you're willing to testify against your wife. What kind of deal is she being offered? Cooperation in exchange for reduced charges, but she has to provide everything she knows about Tyler's operation. And if she doesn't cooperate, she's looking at federal prison time. Elena had one more choice to make. Wednesday afternoon, I received a call from Special Agent Sarah Winters of the FBI Financial Crimes Division. She wanted to meet at my office to discuss Elena's case and Tyler's broader operation. Agent Winters was a sharp woman in her 40s who understood financial crimes better than most attorneys I'd worked with. She spread several files across my conference table. Mr. Malister, your wife's case has given us a window into something much larger than we initially realized. How so? Tyler Brennan isn't working alone. He's part of an organized network that specifically targets wives of high net worth individuals. They've stolen over $12 million in the past 2 years. She showed me photographs of Tyler with different women in different cities. Each photo looked remarkably similar to the ones Elena had sent me. Same pose, same setting, different woman. How many victims? At least 15 that we've identified. Probably more. The operation is sophisticated. They researched targets for months before making contact. Agent Winters pulled out a thick folder labeled with Elena's name. Your wife was under surveillance for 6 weeks before Tyler approached her. They knew your income, your assets, your travel schedule. They even knew about your previous divorce. I felt sick. How? Social media, public records, professional networking sites. Your wife posted frequently about feeling unappreciated, wanting adventure, needing excitement in her life. She was a perfect target. The agent showed me printouts of Elena's Instagram and Facebook posts from the past 4 months. I'd seen most of them, but reading them together painted a picture of someone broadcasting her vulnerability to the world. Tyler's people fed him information about Elena's interests, her workout schedule, even her favorite coffee shop. He positioned himself to appear to meet her by accident. The yoga class. Tyler isn't a yoga instructor. He paid the real instructor to let him substitute for 1 session. That's when he met your wife. I leaned back in my chair, processing the level of manipulation Elena had endured. Agent Winters. How much of what Elena did was her own choice versus being manipulated? That's the question, isn't it? Tyler is an expert at psychological manipulation. He identifies what his targets want to hear and tells them exactly that. But ultimately, your wife chose to steal from you rather than communicate her unhappiness. What happens to her now? That depends on her cooperation. We need her testimony to build cases against the entire network. Tyler is just one piece of this operation. Agent Winters pulled out another file. The man running this network is someone named Vincent Torres. He's been doing this for over a decade. Tyler and 4 other men work for him, targeting specific demographics in different regions. Elena is just one of many. Unfortunately, yes, but her case might help us shut down the entire operation. What kind of cooperation are you looking for? Everything. How Tyler approached her, what he told her about you, how he convinced her to access your accounts. We also need her to help us understand the emotional manipulation tactics they used. I thought about Elena sitting in jail, probably still believing that Tyler cared about her. Agent Winters, does Elena know the truth about Tyler yet? We've told her some of it, but I don't think she's ready to accept that everything was a lie. Will she cooperate? I think so. The alternative is 10 years in federal prison. After Agent Winters left, I sat in my office thinking about the woman I'd married. Elena had been lonely and vulnerable, but she'd also been willing to destroy our life together for a fantasy. I felt angry and sad at the same time. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I'm ready to tell them everything. Elena had made her choice. Thursday morning, I drove to the federal building downtown for Elena's debriefing session. Agent Winters had asked me to attend in case Elena had questions about our finances that might be relevant to the investigation. Elena looked terrible. She'd lost weight and her usually perfect hair hung limp around her face. When she saw me, she started crying again. Brandon, I'm so sorry they told me about the other women about Vincent. I had no idea. I sat across from her at the metal table. Elena, just tell them what they need to know. Agent Winters activated a recording device. Elena, we need you to start from the beginning. When did Tyler first approach you? It was July 15th. I was leaving yoga class at the studio on Camelback Road. He was in the parking lot and asked if I knew any good coffee shops nearby. What did he say about himself? He said he was new to Phoenix, that he'd moved here from California to start a wellness consulting business. He seemed so genuine. Elena described weeks of careful manipulation. Tyler had gradually learned about our marriage, my career, and her growing dissatisfaction with our life together. He convinced her that I was probably hiding money from her that most wealthy men did. He showed me articles about financial fraud, about men who hid assets from their wives during divorces. He said I should protect myself. When did he first suggest accessing your joint accounts? About 3 weeks ago. He said he had a contact who could help me move money somewhere safe just temporarily until I decided what I wanted to do about our marriage. I watched Elena tell her story and realized how completely Tyler had understood her psychology. Every doubt she'd had about our relationship, every insecurity about money and control, he'd amplified and exploited. Elena, Agent Winters continued. Did Tyler ever mention Vincent Torres or any of the other women? Never. He said I was special, that he'd never met anyone like me. Did he ask you to recruit other women? Elena looked surprised. No. Why would he? Agent Winters exchanged glances with me. Elena, Vincent's operation usually asks successful targets to help identify their friends who might be in similar situations. Tyler never asked me to do anything like that. I realized what had happened. Elena's arrest had come too quickly. Tyler hadn't had time to move her into the recruitment phase of the operation. Agent Winters, I said. Tyler probably planned to disappear as soon as Elena's wire transfer cleared. She was a one-time target, not a long-term asset. Elena looked confused. What does that mean? It means Tyler was going to take our money and vanish. You would have been left with nothing. Elena put her face in her hands. God, I'm so stupid. The debriefing continued for 3 hours. Elena provided details about Tyler's apartment, his car, his supposed business contacts. All of it would help the FBI build their case against the larger operation. When it was over, Agent Winters walked us to the lobby. Elena, your cooperation today was very helpful. The prosecutor is willing to recommend a reduced sentence if you testify at trial. How reduced? 18 months instead of 8 years. With good behavior, you could be out in 12. Elena looked at me. Brandon, will you wait for me? I've been dreading this question. Elena, our marriage is over. You'll have to rebuild your life without me. I understand. As I drove home, I felt relieved for the next chapter. Elena would face consequences, but she'd also get a chance to start over. That was more than Tyler's other victims had gotten. 6 months later, I sat in a federal courthouse watching Tyler Brennan get sentenced to 15 years in prison. Elena's testimony had been crucial in exposing the full scope of Vincent Torres's operation. The prosecutor had presented evidence of $12 million stolen from 17 different families. Tyler had personally been responsible for Elena and 3 other victims. His conviction was the first domino in bringing down the entire network. Judge Harrison looked directly at Tyler as she delivered the sentence. Mr. Brennan, you systematically destroyed marriages and families for financial gain. You showed no remorse and no regard for the psychological damage you inflicted on your victims. Tyler stood expressionless as the bailiff led him away in handcuffs. He'd maintained his innocence throughout the trial, claiming the women had voluntarily given him access to their money. Elena had testified for 2 days. She'd been composed and honest about her own choices while clearly explaining Tyler's manipulation tactics. The jury had found her credible, which helped convict Tyler and 3 other members of the network. Vincent Torres had been arrested in Miami 3 weeks after Tyler's conviction. The FBI found evidence linking him to similar operations in 8 states. Elena received her sentence the following week, 14 months in federal prison, followed by 2 years of supervised probation. She'd also agreed to pay restitution, though the money she tried to steal had never actually left her accounts. I attended her sentencing hearing, sitting in the back of the courtroom. When it was over, Elena approached me in the hallway. Brandon, thank you for not giving up on the investigation. I know you could have let me take the full sentence. Elena, I wanted justice, not revenge. I start serving next month. I've been thinking about what I want to do when I get out. What's that? Help other women recognize these kinds of scams. Maybe work with the FBI on prevention programs. I nodded. That sounds like a good use of your experience. We shook hands in the courthouse hallway. It was the last time I saw Elena as my wife. 2 years later, I was reviewing quarterly reports for Ironvale Financial when Bethany knocked on my office door. Mr. Mallister, there's someone here to see you. She says she's an old client. I looked up to see a woman I didn't immediately recognize. Then I realized it was Elena. She looked healthy, confident, and completely different from the broken person I'd last seen in federal court. Hello, Brandon. I hope you don't mind me stopping by. Elena, how are you? Good. Really good. I wanted to thank you for what? For letting me face the consequences of my choices. I spent a lot of time in prison thinking about who I was and who I wanted to become. Elena had served 11 months and been released early for good behavior. She'd spent the past year working with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, helping develop educational programs for potential fraud victims. I'm getting remarried next month, she said to someone I met in my therapy group, someone who understands recovery and second chances. I'm glad you found happiness. Brandon, I need you to know that what I did to you wasn't about money or Tyler or anything he told me. I was unhappy with myself and I blamed you for it. That was wrong, Elena. We both made mistakes in our marriage. No, this one was all mine. After she left, I sat quietly for a while, thinking about forgiveness and fresh starts. Elena had lost everything. Our marriage, her freedom, her old life. But she'd found something more valuable. She'd found herself. I built my career protecting people from financial predators. I never expected to protect myself from my own wife. But when the moment came, everything held together. Sometimes the greatest betrayals lead to the clearest truths.